You know, I don't know what community policing is. I mean, I did watch Batman. Maybe that's what it is. And when we find Bruce Wayne, maybe we can turn Minneapolis over to him. But police officers all across the country, and indeed the world, I want you to hear the sound of my voice. You are good. You are necessary. You are needed. In many and most cases, you represent the best of us. You react to situations that none of us want to be in. You react in situations with, for the most part, the integrity and patience that none of us have. I have seen you stand and protect people that I know you despise. And you will fight and die for them and their rights. And I thank you for that. You are doing a job that no one else will. You're doing a job that most of us could never do. If all cops are evil, then so are we as people. Because cops come from us. White and black and brown and yellow. They are just a representation of all mankind. And I'm not going to play a role a second longer in this shameful lie about our cops. Our cops save lives, they keep us safe, they protect us, they serve us. Is the history of some cops and some stations and some departments bad in the past? No, it's not just bad, but abhorrent. But let's focus today on what we can do today and what's happening today without dismissing the pain of the past. Just like there are bad doctors and teachers and mechanics, there are some bad cops, but the vast majority of them are good. Many of them are great. Now, let me ask you this. Can the same thing be said for the same percentages of the people that are protesting? Because I've heard organizers say, hey, those people who are looting are not part of what we're trying to do. Really? Shouldn't we just lump all of those who are protesting peacefully with those who are burning our cities down to the ground? You say you want cops to rat out the bad guys, as do I. Well, why don't you lead the way by pointing out the names and the organizations that are behind all the evil that we see on our streets today? Why don't you do it? Are the number of cops who are bad versus good different from those numbers in the media? I would contend yes. I think there are far more percentage-wise good cops than there are good journalists. The lies that our journalists are currently telling today, right now, will be responsible for thousands of deaths, misery, global hunger, joblessness, and in the end, they may be responsible for enslaving a good portion of the world. That's your journalist today. How many good ones are there? Because I can't seem to find them, but I can find a buttload of good cops. Currently, the freedom of all mankind has a member of the Marxist mob kneeling on its neck. And America is saying, I can't breathe. Can you actually state with a straight face that the percentage of clean versus dirty, good versus bad among our political ruling class is anywhere close to the percentage of good cops versus bad? Our politicians, they lie, they cheat, they steal. Look at what has happened in Congress in the last 4 years. These politicians have stolen our children's future through out-of-control spending and debt and lies. They increasingly make the world a more dangerous place through their incompetent and double-dealing and self-serving actions. And they do it daily. I have news for you. I would trust a cop to take care of my kids for 60 days over a politician taking my kids for 60 minutes. Geez, the one you're running is sniffing everybody's hair. BLM, Antifa. Because of the lies and the agenda of those same politicians and media, most Americans have no idea who these people are. Until our special tonight, make sure you watch it. We take the mask off of these people and show you who's involved and what their real plan is. Because Americans are good and decent and do want to live together in peace and do want a good police force and don't want black people to feel any different than they feel when they call a cop. Because of that, so many Americans have just signed up to support BLM. And I think many of those Americans mean well, but they are lambs being led to the slaughter. And those of us who know, too many of us are silent because we're afraid. Afraid of what? I'm only afraid of one thing. When I get to the end of my life, I have failed because I will pay an eternal consequence. So why are you silent? Why are you sitting down? Are you afraid? Are you ignorant? If you are, know it now and educate yourself. Because if you remain in self-inflicted ignorance, you're part of the problem. It's time for America to say enough is enough. It is time to grow up, America. It's time to grow up and take responsibility for your own actions, not the actions of others, not the actions of those in a distant past, but for your own actions. Yeah, responsibility. Responsibility for our nation, our rights, and our future. Otherwise, they're all going to be lost. I personally have talked to, listened to, and reconciled with anyone who is honest, that wants honest understanding. I know firsthand how race relations of the past have scarred many of my friends. Stories from some of my black friends that they have told me that have shocked me to the core. But unless my memory fails me, all of those are from people who grew up in the 50s and the 60s. It's a different world. And you know how they found peace and success? They found peace and success through forgiveness. Forgiveness is real. Redemption is a power beyond man and beyond man's understanding. I don't know how it works, but I'm glad God has provided it for us. But in today's world, you are being led into the slaughterhouse where there is no forgiveness. Even though you weren't involved, you and your kind are guilty today and will always be guilty. Let me say this, and I want you to understand this. I am just as responsible for the horrors of Jim Crow laws and the racist in the Klan and dirty cops as blacks are for the DC sniper. Who in your right mind would blame the DC sniper on every African American? No one. So why am I blamed for the Klan? I have nothing to do with them. I despise them. And I will not bow down and apologize for my part. I have no part in any of it. Just like blacks had no part in the DC sniper, you had nothing to do with it, neither did I. Now let's unite on the things that we can do and can help each other with today. I will not kneel down and kiss the feet of the mob. There is no king for me but God. The Marxist mob and BLM want you to believe and force you to state that all cops and all white people are guilty Whether they're good or bad, whether they're white or black or brown, cops are guilty. If you wear blue, you're bad. Well, that is a lie, and I proudly and loudly proclaim it. It's a lie, and it's a poison. And we must stand up against that lie and all other anti-American, anti-freedom, anti-constitution, anti-individual collective abominations. As I wrote this last night, I knew, oh, man, that's going to cause trouble. You're going to get in trouble for that. I accept that. I don't want that. I'm just speaking what I know to be true. And I refuse to go over the cliff with the rest of humanity into some Alice in Wonderland fantasy. I will not condemn an entire profession, an entire group or race. You were born for these days. I was born for these days. You are here for a reason. You do have enough power. You do have the strength. Your act of courage of just stating the fact that you know is true will inspire others to stand and heed the promptings and the pleadings of the celestial spheres. I believe in the individual. I believe in redemption. I believe in the worst person can be healed, can change, can be a part of the solution. I will stand against those who make mistakes, but I will call them mistakes. They may have to pay a heavy price for that mistake. But I will stand with them to change their life. I will stand with anyone, cop or protester, as long as they're not bringing violence, destruction, and fear to others. Black Americans should never fear being stopped by a cop. Never. That's wrong. But good cops should also never be afraid of walking the streets. If we cannot listen to one another and see people again as people, not the groups they belong to, we are not going to just take race relations, but we will take man's very essence back hundreds of years. I will fight against anyone, group, ideology that blindly condemns and forces others to go along. That is fascism. And in the 20th century, our country fought against fascists in Europe. Today, so-called Antifa hides behind this fight against fascism when they're really fighting for communism and Marxism. Yes, they fought against fascism in the 1930s, but what they leave out is they were fighting for communism. They were both socialist, one national socialist, and Antifa, global, worldwide socialists. Today, they fight against the admitted flawed Western system for the failed totalitarian Marxist idea. Nazis and communists are evil. We used to know this. It's time to say it again. This is who you're aligning with when you stand with these groups. Read the BLM website. Soros and others have pumped millions of dollars into BLM. Now our local government and corporations are doing the same. Listen to me. We all have responsibility to treat each other as we wish to be treated. We all have to call out evil and do all in our power to help other people. And we fail miserably at those things. Many of us fail miserably every day. But we must now stand as Christ has asked us to stand in his pattern with love and humility and forgiveness. Martin Luther King changed the world. Gandhi did the same. So did Lincoln and every other individual or movement that used the gospel of peace as its model. Racism, sexism, greed, murder, hatred, they've all been a problem with man since man began because it's every man's problem. There is no collective progression. It's up to each of us as individuals to grow and to get better. There's no such thing as collective salvation. There is no such thing as Marxist social justice. There is only man's justice, which is flawed, and we have to work hard every day to help repair and clean it up. And then there is God's justice. It is perfect and it is eternal. There is no other justice. And to say otherwise is an affront to God. And while we're on the affront to God, to presume that we should all be colorblind, quite frankly, is also insulting. You know, as I've been thinking about this, did God make us different because it didn't matter? If you're black, God made you that way for a reason, and that no man can change that or should try to. He made you special and different. He made me special and different. All of us are. If people don't accept the work of God, they're flawed, not you. And if you're white, there is no stain or sin that has been passed on to you from past generations. There's no collective sin committed by others that you're responsible for. You're responsible for your actions today and those alone. Are you bringing truth and peace into the world by your words and actions? Or are you twisting the truth to divide and destroy? Which is it? Today, I will fulfill my responsibility to call out evil as I see it. Antifa. The true mission of BLM is outlined on their own website, and condemning all those who wear a badge is evil, and it will lead to deep misery and death. I stand today with those who, after 9/11 and quite frankly every major disaster, we thank and grovel and marvel at their heroism. There are bad guys, and cops should be the first who want to rid themselves of those cops. But with that being said, I don't know how someone who does what they do every day for our nation, a nation that now treats them as killers, thugs, and animals, I don't know how you show up, but I thank you for it. Cops are good, and they need our support now more than ever. Some are bad, just as are some mechanics and some protesters. Those people should be found and prosecuted under a system of just and equal laws. To our men and women in blue, I salute you and stand by your side today.